I remember the chorus kind of. A boy around you just for the summer. Don't come knocking on my door. Like, okay.
That should be the cold open.
Aren't you guys all 30 years old or something? Come on. Welcome back to the Pack You Run podcast.
Welcome back.
I just cut you off so bad.
Yeah, we kind of didn't coordinate that
You're
at
not
all.
coordinated at all this week.
Well, it's already a week.
Yes, it has been a week.
Anyways, I am your host, Dan Mayotte, and I am joined with my co-host,
AJ Lagambina.
La Gabina.
Aj Lagambina. Siri likes to call me. We're back. We're back for some more goofs and some more ha-has and the madness that comes along with recording this podcast every week.
Yes, it is. Not a lot has changed. You know, it's the same old crap, except you're back in your store.
As of today was my first day back. I thought yesterday was going to be my first day back, but that didn't go as planned.
How was your first day of school?
Pretty nice actually. It was waking up in the morning and like getting up, making coffee, getting in the car. It felt a little bit closer to normal. I got to actually be around human beings for a little bit, which was nice. And I miraculously remember how to do my job. So very few questions that I needed to actually ask about like functional things. It was mostly just getting back into the habit of it, which I'm not that mad at. I feel good. I feel very tired. We don't really go in depth on our jobs here on the Pack You Run podcast, but my actual day job is kind of physically taxing. So I'm definitely feeling it in the knees and stuff. And there were a couple of times today where I was like doubled over and feeling like an old man. But it's like 70 degrees down here in Nashville.
Dude, you gotta stretch.
So I'm like shorts and stuff. Wait, what was your question?
You gotta stretch.
Supposedly. I think I'm a science denier in that respect.
I hate that so much.
There's no need for stretching. I am young and agile, and my body is ready.
You're gonna turn into one of those foam rollers and roll out your body like before when you wake up and like when you go to bed.
I need one of those foam rollers, and I also need one of those pull-up bars that you can put in like a doorway. I need to get back to doing just straight up body weight exercises all the time. I miss when I had a swimmer's body.
Yeah, true. Gotta take those laps, boy.
Dude, I need a pool. Who wants to donate a pool to the cause?
Don't we all need a pool though? I mean, maybe not now, especially in Massachusetts.
I heard that you guys had some decent weather today, actually.
I mean, compared to last week and like yesterday, it's good. Good weather, 50s, 60s. I know tomorrow is supposed to be in the 60s, which that's pretty cool. But I'll be inside working all day.
That's why I was in shorts today, even though I work in a basement, basically. Every time I went outside, it was like...
Aren't you cold?
Right now? No.
Well, yeah. I'm talking about at work in a basement.
No, not really, because I'm like constantly moving, so get a little bit more freedom as opposed to the skin tight jeans that I'm wearing 9 times out of 10. Dealing with large shipments of product, a little bit easier when you're wearing shorts. But as soon as you stop moving, that air conditioning will get you. But walking outside in 70 degrees, this is prime time for Nashville weather, because it's, you get a little bit of that heat, especially if you're sitting there in the sunshine, but there's a constant breeze kind of going and the humidity isn't there. So this is really the warmest I ever want it to be. Like 70s, maybe I'll push 80 if I'm going to like a beach or something. But I like dry and like kind of warm.
But you're nowhere near a beach.
No, I'm landlocked. It sucks.
Landlocked without a pool.
Landlocked, no pool. One of the worst cities to be in during, pandemic times. It's really, I'm truly just living the dream right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So many ways.
Yeah, Massachusetts is not quite there yet. But we've been, just blabbering on. Let's talk about what we are drinking this evening as tradition
I have...
around here.
Can you see me? Because it still says poor connection on my end. Our technology is just always working. Try something.
Nah, I see you, dude.
I can't.
And, of course, AJ hangs up now because he hates this podcast. You heard that, folks. AJ hates this podcast and wants nothing to do with this podcast.
Now I can see you.
He hates it and he hates me.
I do hate you.
I went on a whole rant there.
I'll be sure to leave it in.
I mean, you have to. By law.
So we left off asking about what we're drinking tonight, and I've got a doozy. For the viewers at home that can't see it, I have an oil can in my hands. I got a big old can of Foster's Lager. It's Australian for beer, kids. That was a good. This is
I don't think I've ever had Foster's in my life.
Foster's was the first ever sip of beer I ever had, and I thought that somebody was trying to kill me. I remember it vividly. Foster's was one of my grandfather's favorite beers. He used to drink it all the time, and I remember once when I was pretty young, I was in West Palm Beach, Florida, at the little condo that my grandparents had, and my grandfather let me try a sip of his Foster's, which back then you could still get in bottles, which I'm very sad that here in the States you can't get Foster's in anything other than these giant oil cans. And I think you can get it on draft, but I'm not that big on draft beer. So yeah, I remember being like probably 8 years old and trying a sip and being like, this is horrendous. And never tried it again until after my grandfather had passed away. And our good friend Justin Poole and I were running around the city of New Haven, enjoying our College-ate debauchery in downtown New Haven.
Yes.
And we decided to stop off.
As we do.
As you do. We stopped off at a little bar for a nightcap, and that bar was called Anna Liffey's, which I came to realize after talking to my grandmother, was actually a bar that she and my grandfather had gone to. It was one of the only places that she really knew of in New Haven. And while we were there, I saw the giant oil can of Foster's Lager in one of their refrigerators and decided to get one as my nightcap. And ever since then, I've come to really kind of appreciate it. It's a great beer as far as cheap beers go. There's nothing particularly special about it. It's a beer. Whatever you think beer tastes like or smells like or looks like, this is what it is.
Okay. How would you compare it to like an American, like what American well-known beer would you like compare it to? Or is it its like own thing? Like Jenny Cream is kind of like its own thing that like nothing else tastes like it.
It is actually kind of similar to the Genesee, the cream ale. It's very light. It's got a little bit of hoppiness, like more like every beer talks about like what hops it uses. And this in keeping with like a Genesee or a Pabst Blue Ribbon, Budweiser, think of any American lager, and this is like a little bit crisper, a little bit of that hoppy bite, like there's some fruitiness there, like all of the flavors that are in it are very subtle. At its heart, it's like the most basic lager that you could really get, but it's, as an overall beer, it's not bad. It's not particularly heavy. It's just, for lack of a better term, it's actually quite refreshing.
All right, cool.
What do you got?
I am drinking Purple Moon. I think it's a Pinot Noir from the good old Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's Pinot Noir.
Kind of an oaky afterbirth.
No.
If you know, you know.
God.
If you know, you know. You know where that
I
reference
hate
is
that
from.
sentence, and I hate that quote, and I hate that episode.
Why do you hate that
It's
episode?
one of the funniest episodes, but it's like
We're talking about The Office, FYI.
I find some moments in The Office very similar to watching certain episodes of Friends, where you're watching it and like cringe humor and stuff like that gets kind of hard for me because when I watch TV shows and movies and stuff, I often find myself putting myself into a character's shoes, and then I just get like it physically pains me watching other people be stupid sometimes. And yeah, there's a couple of moments in that episode, including that line, where it's just like, oh god.
But it's so
is.
funny.
It's very funny, but
I think there's an argument that might be the best episode of The Office ever written, like created, you know?
I mean the setup and everything for that is there's no denying.
Yeah, it's one of the best. And that's not a hot take at all. It's just undisputed facts. Like, it's not like if I came here and was like saying Scott's Tots is the best episode of The Office.
I've only ever watched that episode of The Office once and never again.
I think everyone has only seen it once because it's just so bad.
Anybody who's ever gone through the ringer of college finances knows that there's just like the jokes don't hit on that episode. It's just pain.
It's all I know is pain.
All I feel is pain.
That wraps up our drink section. We got a couple Patriots news. Mostly rumors, but there was actually one deal made today, right when I woke up. Like I turned over.
We are recording on Tuesday, March 9th in the year of our Lord 2021.
Yes. When I rolled over this morning, Trent Brown, former offensive lineman, well, I guess now back with the Patriots. He was with the Patriots about 2 years ago, signed with the Raiders after a massive good season. I think he made the Pro Bowl and like became a star, and now got traded back. We don't really know the details of the trade, and Branchy, like I found out about this at like 6:30 in the morning Eastern time, and now it's almost 8:30 Eastern time.
But aren't a lot of these things that people have been talking about? Don't a lot of these things not actually apply until what is it, next Wednesday? Like yeah. So confirmations and stuff are going to be hard to come by, no matter what the rumor or the confirmed thing is.
Right, and I mean like that's when the new football year starts, as they say, and he's restructured his deal. Now he's making apparently up to $11 million. So like I'm assuming with incentives attached, determining like how much playing time he gets, if he makes a Pro Bowl, if they win the Super Bowl, like all that kind of stuff. Just like how Cam Newton signed for under $1 million, but like had the potential of making up with incentives $5 million. So tough to know what that is going to mean for the cap. Joe Thuney, who was franchise tagged last year, they're going to let him walk. He's going to get paid with somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, we got to be. It's an interesting time to be a Patriots fan right now, because I think anybody that knows anything is of two minds when it comes to this team. On the one hand, I think we're all kind of reeling from this past year and kind of thinking, we got to be really aggressive and we've really got to, we got to make some big splashes. And then on the other hand, we've also seen what sustained success looks like for 20 years. And we're all a little bit gun shy about like, well, how much money do we want to spend? How much of this do we, So the Joe Thuney thing, I get it. It's kind of sad to see him go.
And I mean, they're probably going to kick either Isaiah Wynn or Michael Uwunu, who just had like a fantastic rookie season, a steal in the 6th round. I mean, the Patriots' offensive line is all set. That is one thing to not be concerned about, despite my past rants about the offensive line. I think it's more in like looking at a new mindset. I'm thinking it's more of the weapons around Cam, that were kind of the problem. Like, the offensive line could only hold blocks for so long.
Yeah.
And maybe Cam just didn't trust his guys enough.
I think Cam didn't trust himself enough. I think obviously just as far as weapons are concerned, we didn't have anything. And the things that we did have were kind of damaged goods to begin with. I mean, how many more seasons are we going to talk about Julian Edelman playing through injuries and everything else? You know, it's just
apparently he wants to come back next season too. He has plans to come back.
I mean,
that's what he's been saying in his camp.
But that's Cam was second guessing himself a lot. You can see, just go look at any of the highlight reels, even some of the best plays that we had this past season. You could see he was out of his element on all fronts, and the shoulder thing was still kind of an issue. And I mean, I'm not mad if we see Cam Newton in a Patriots uniform again this year, but this is, what else do we do? Is Jimmy Garoppolo truly our plan A? Who knows? You know.
I mean, there's been serious reports about that. I don't want Jimmy, and now I kind of have one idea of who the Patriots could go after, and maybe like it would be a low risk, high reward type of player. Gardner Minshew from like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Minshew mania, get the mustache man, and with his mullet with the Patriots.
I'm
24 years old, and I think he could bring some potential.
I think there's potential with a lot of guys. I think it's more about, you know, who are we letting these guys throw to? And I think that's going to be one of our biggest issues. I think between the opt-outs that are going to be coming back in and some of the moves that we already seem to be making in the secondary and with the offensive line and things like that, like I think the defense of the football for the Patriots is not really going to be the issue. I think it's going to be, you know, Cam Newton's not the star quarterback that we all really, really wanted him to be this year. But I think a solid 50% of that issue is the fact that he had nobody to really throw to. And that's maintaining the levels of success that we've had with our offensive line and our defense, while also, you know, trying to take 3 big steps forward with receivers and quarterback. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of planning and a lot of training that's going to have to go into that. So,
and I mean, we have $60 million to do something with, and I mean, we're going to have to see next week. I mean, maybe next week we'll do some predictions and try maybe to come up with a wish list of who we would like to see in like a Patriots uniform. Because now we're getting to more confirmed names, like Allen Robinson from the Chicago Bears was just recently, I think as of today, was tagged, so he's off the market. Maybe the Buccaneers won't be able to retain Chris Godwin after giving Levante David a huge deal. Who knows?
I'd be okay with Godwin. I think we've said that before on the podcast.
Oh yeah. It's a wait and see game, and then maybe like the next following week we'll do our breakdown of who we've signed.
Yeah, we got to make some big moves here.
Yes, absolutely.
But by all accounts, we do seem kind of set up for success as far as, you know, cap space goes, who we still have as a leadership team, you know, the potential of having some of our best, you know, culture kind of guys still being in and around the team. I'm not super worried.
Right.
I think, especially if we walk into the 2021 season with a chip on our shoulder and really try to go on a little bit of a revenge tour, I think we could be seeing a really great Patriots team this year.
I think it's a little too early to say that. But I'll say one more thing about Cam Newton before we transition to our next thing, our next piece, so to speak. I mean, Cam Newton was walking into kind of a situation where it'd be hard for anyone to succeed in. I mean, with the exception of maybe like Peyton Manning and who are some of the, like Patrick Mahomes, if the Patriots got him, like any of those guys would have walked in and been fine.
I disagree.
But like Cam Newton had no shot.
I disagree with that point, actually. I don't think anybody could have walked in. I think that you're looking at a team and an organization that's been run a certain way for 20 straight years. And I mean, it's not exclusively because of the departure of Tom Brady, but that is a significant portion of the issue. But I think that the Patriots organization from top to bottom is run a very specific way, from the way that the management is held, like financially and professionally, all the way down to the guys in the locker room, and the way that the entire organization works is a very specific thing. And I think I get why you're saying what you're saying, but look at the way Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, or the way that Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers. In both of those cases, they walked in and those organizations rallied around those guys. And those organizations changed for their guy, whereas Cam Newton walked into the Patriots organization and was expected to be a Patriot from day one, with offseason, OTAs, COVID diagnosis, like all the stuff that we've gone over and over and over again. And it's gotten a little bit old to hear about that from us and from the professional media and everything else. But like, Cam Newton walked into an organization that was going to do things the way that the organization has always done them. And that right there should have been everybody's first sign. And I think it was. I think a lot of the people that were like thinking about it, and I would argue that the two of us, I mean, we were and probably still are, like, Cam Newton fans. But I think anybody that walked into that situation understood, like, okay, this is a huge ask.
Right. Well, like, I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. But I don't think.
But I just didn't.
But I don't think if we had. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a playmaker. He's always going to be a playmaker. He's always going to elevate the team that's around him. And like, okay, cool. You could argue that Cam Newton actually kind of did that this year. But
I mean, he did. I mean, he had the most rushing touchdowns by a quarterback.
Yeah, and culturally speaking, he definitely left his mark. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that anybody could have walked into the Patriots organization this past year and done a whole lot better than what we saw, because it wasn't with Cam, it wasn't really a meeting in the middle. It wasn't the organization, trying to really play towards Cam's strengths. We talked about that at length with the way that Josh McDaniels was running the offense. And Cam didn't really have the gas in the tank to elevate that much more than what we saw with a team that was just a team that just wasn't built to be a championship team, even before the departure of Brady and everything else. It's a mulligan, and I think after 20 years of winning the AFC East every year,
except one or two times, I think.
18 years of winning the division, I think I'm okay with a mulligan, especially if we can, come back within the next. I give the organization this coming season and probably next season to get back to true championship caliber teams. And if it doesn't work out within the next 2 years, then I'm okay with everybody in the national sports media and everything else turning around and being like, oh, the Patriots dynasty is completely fallen apart. But for right now, you lose the greatest quarterback of all time, and you're in kind of a cap hell situation that year, plus add a global pandemic on top of it. What did you want? What did you think was actually reasonable to ask of that team?
That is fair. All right, we're going to take a trip down memory lane.
Once again.
We've been doing this for the past 2 weeks. We talked about, to kick it off, we started with Wish I Could Stay Here by Basement, which that album's turning 10 years old. We also talked last week extensively about Be a Toy, which came out in 2013.
Spring Songs and The Last Thing You Forget by Title Fight.
Yes. Both came out around that 4-year window. We're going to look at a list. And this came out in 2012, right when, it was like right at the top of the year. And it was like AbsolutePunks.net's top albums of 2011.
So I believe this was...
which is now named Chorus.fm.
I believe this list came out the year before I started writing for AbsolutePunk.net, which I used to do on a pretty regular basis. I would do album reviews and stuff like that. Absolute Punk slash chorus.fm is still, I would argue, probably one of the best places you could go if you're looking for alternative music news. The forums and stuff are always pretty lively. But yeah,
What, you don't like alt punk or alt press?
God, Alt Press. Alt Press holds a special place in my heart because I remember getting those magazines and I remember, going through all their kind of stuff. But man, their web developer should just be shot.
My favorite magazine, and they used to put it out every year. I don't know if they still do physical copies, but they would do like the 100 bands you need to know about right now.
Yeah.
And I think that was like the name of the list, but it would be like all these up and coming bands, and it was really sick. I think that was like one of the coolest things.
And they did a really Alt Press used to do a really good job with the 100 bands you need to know right now. They would do a really good job of getting, it wasn't just like bands on indie labels that were putting out debut records and stuff like that. Like they did their homework. There were a lot of unsigned bands. There was a lot, like anybody that had a little bit of hype around them would make it to those lists, and they'd get like full page spreads. And yeah, Alt Press, the actual magazine, I think they still do print, but yeah, they used to be the kings of that kind of stuff.
Like that was cool, but maybe we'll save Alt Press for another day. But today we're going to talk about Absolute Punk and Chorus.fm. Should we start at 30 or should we start at number 1?
We can start from the bottom and go up.
Okay.
But I will say before we get started, like I said, used to write for the website. I think this was the year before I started actually being a staff member. And basically the way that they do it is everybody who's a staff writer for the website, in addition to a couple of other friends of the website and things like that, everybody goes and submits like a top 30 albums of the year, and then a couple of the staff members will go and they'll like tabulate based on just how many people put what on what, how many people have an album on their list plus where they put it on their list. Both of those things kind of come into account. And especially at this kind of point in 2011, this is when the site really started to get, every troll on the forums and stuff used to be like, I thought this was Absolute Punk. But
Oh, yeah. Because I see some names on this list already that I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's cool. I think if I was given the time when this came out, I probably would have been snobby and probably been like, I thought this was a punk site.
Yeah.
Not like.
So it's a pretty
Whatever.
it's a pretty eclectic list. But I think the other thing is it's an eclectic list, but it's also, God, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I think the reason why we're doing this, just for a little bit of context for the viewers, this is 2011. We were just about to start college, so this was just before Dan and I were, first introduced to each other and we started living together and everything. But
we were still in high school.
Yeah.
Like we were sophomore, juniors in high school or something like that.
this is going to be a really interesting year or two as far as retrospectives go, because these are all the albums that you and I were like identifying with each other over. These are all the albums that we were listening to in the lead up to actually, hanging out together and living with each other, starting a record label. Like all the stuff that we've done was so much of that was based around like the albums that we're going to be talking about throughout this year and probably the next year or two. So this is pretty huge, and this is going to be a nice little precursor to, I'm sure we're going to be doing track by track analyses of a lot of these records. But yeah, we can can start from the bottom and go up to the top, and I'll let you take it away.
So it said top 30, but I only have 28. And at 28, I got St. Vincent, Strange Mercy.
So are you a St. Vincent guy?
The only thing I know about St. Vincent was like, I think it was like the Grammys a couple years ago, and I remember St. Vincent and Her,
Yeah.
the artist, they were both like jamming on guitars, like wailing, like do crazy guitar solos, and I thought that was like really cool. But like I have not listened to this record.
Yeah, St. Vincent. I should probably give St. Vincent a little bit more time. But I have a weird amount of respect for an artist that I haven't really listened to ever. Partly because the St. Vincent custom guitar, which if anybody hasn't seen that, they should look it up. It's a very, very interesting kind of body shape, and it's made by Ernie Ball Music Band, who makes just absolutely immaculate guitars. So that's like the first thing that I think of when I see the name St. Vincent. I vaguely remember Strange Mercy. I know that, the people that love St. Vincent really, really love St. Vincent, which is funny because the number 1 album on this list and the number 28 album on this list kind of bookend this perfectly. They're the two artists. The two artists seem to be kind of sandwiched in my mind as well as on this list. And we'll get to that. But yeah, St. Vincent, I'm not sure how much there is to say about it. I have a lot of respect for St. Vincent. It just hasn't really come across my headphones.
Yeah. And I mean, the next one you can talk extensively about. I can't really talk much about because I just could never get into this band especially from the scene, and I've seen this band live a couple times probably, but I can't get into them. But you can speak on that.
Number 27 is Pianos Become the Teeth with the album The Lack Long After. Lack Long After is the first in a it's basically the first half of a two album concept record basically. So you get the Lack Long After, and then later, I think in 2013, they came out with their album Keep You. Both albums are basically autobiographical descriptions of their vocalist Kyle Durfee dealing with the loss of his father. Lack Long After is very, very traditional emo screamo, scrams for those kids in the know.
I think that's probably why I can't get into it. It's just too just noisy for me.
Yeah, you were never big into Seisha and those kind of bands either, traditional emo.
No.
Which is interesting because so much of what made that version of screamo popular is what kind of built up and became all the twinkly guitar emo kind of stuff that you and I were seeing every night in New Haven.
I can get into that, and also I used to go to hardcore shows all the time. One of my favorite bands of all time is Have Heart, for example.
Yeah, I think the difference being,
but it's a different kind of screaming though.
Yeah, where that's the thing is that the catharsis for a band like Pianos Become the Teeth is in the music and in the actual expression of the music, I think. Whereas the catharsis with a more traditional hardcore band, something like Have Heart, is in the actual live show. Have Heart on record,
right,
is a absolutely fucking fantastic hardcore band. But they're still writing mosh parts. The idea behind that music is we're going to play this live and we're going to have a room full of kids just throwing fists and having a great time, as opposed to.
But you want to know what's crazy, and I'm sorry I cut you off. I can get into another one of my favorite bands is The World Is a Beautiful Place, and they write those kind of emotional instrumental parts, but I just could never get into Pianos Become the Teeth.
Yeah, but I don't think The World Is ever went as aggressive as Pianos Become the Teeth did, especially on this album.
That's true. That is true.
But this album is very easy to write off as just a emo, screamo, scrams, revivalist kind of record. But all the really cool melodic stuff that was more overtly melodic for this band, all of that stuff is still there on this album, on the Lack Long After. But then they just kind of went even further into that direction for the next two albums. And yeah, I dare you to find me a more emotive band than Pianos. But I'm sure maybe later this year we can do a Lack Long After track by track, and I'll torture you with that, Dan. But
yeah, I mean, you sure can. Because I'm going to probably torture you with one of the other bands on this list. We'll get to them.
Who's a little bit too high for my liking, but we'll get there.
Next is Florence and the Machine. Ceremonials.
I'm not sure how you feel about this, and I'm sure that I know there's a couple of people in my family and a couple of people in my friends that are going to hate me for this, but yawn.
I mean, I'm looking at the album like Wikipedia page. I'm looking at like the track by track of it, and I'm sure if someone put a song on from this record, like one of the singles, I'd probably recognize it, but like I can't think of it because I probably heard it on the radio and all that other crap, you know?
Yeah, there's nothing that ever truly interested me about Florence and the Machine. I think they played Boston Calling the one year that I went, and I
think I've seen them before.
couldn't tell you anything
Pretty
about
sure
them.
I've seen them.
They had the Shake It Off song that wasn't the Taylor Swift song, and that's where my knowledge of that band begins and ends, honestly.
Yeah. Don't they have the one song that's like, I'm coming home, home is the only place I'm in.
Maybe it's
Is that them?
that melody sounds very much like it, but I don't know.
I mean, it's yeah. Red City Radio, The Dangers of Standing Still. I have not heard this record, so I have nothing to comment on it.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know it well enough. It rings some bells. I know that Red City Radio was a thing, and that I feel like it was actually a pretty big thing. But yeah, at number 25 on the list, I don't know.
Then we move into Drake with Take Care. To be honest, I don't know early Drake stuff that well. I don't know Drake's discography that well in general. I know the hits, and
Started from the bottom. Now we're here.
That's on this record.
So. I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea.
This was. This is how you know that this came from a punk site. At number 24, I think most like general music listeners would think it's way, way, way too low. But yeah, obviously it's a Drake album. There were hits on it, and Drake has become. He's a really interesting kind of analysis of pop stardom. Because Drake has really. Anybody who's listening can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'm probably about to correct you.
Drake has taken a, for lack of a better term, a very brand new approach to pop stardom. When brand new was at their height, everything was about this like kind of secrecy, and there wasn't a ton of social media presence. There wasn't a ton of press. There wasn't a ton of interviews. It was very kind of standoffish, and that added to the whole like fever of people wanting more from that band. I feel like that's kind of what Drake has done in the pop rap kind of sphere.
I mean, maybe music-wise, but like I have to disagree with you as far as him being in the limelight. I mean, like he was on Degrassi.
Yeah, but that was before the true pop stardom. I'm talking about like in the past 5 years. Yeah. Like how much have we really heard from Drake when he's not putting out a new album? And how many singles does he put out before he puts out a new album? Not that many, especially for
the Champagne Poppy.
Yeah, especially for such a massive star. Like, how much warning do people actually get? How much hype is actually going into a lot of these Drake albums? In the lead up, not a ton. It seems like every time he releases new music, everybody's kind of sitting back and being like, "Oh my God, nobody was expecting this." He pulls a Beyonce every time he releases a mixtape or an album or anything.
But I feel like that's like the cool thing to do now. I mean, like Kanye does that.
Yeah, now everybody started to do it, and it's become like a very normal thing. But that was, I feel like everybody, from what little I get from that kind of corner of the music industry, when it comes to like a Kanye or a Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Adele, name a giant pop star. Even if the artist hasn't released anything or hasn't teased anything, everybody's always on the pulse about like when's the new music coming out, when's the new thing coming out. And I feel like Drake is one of the only ones where nobody ever knows, and then something finally hits and everybody's just kind of slapped across the face with it like, I wasn't expecting it.
Right. Yeah. The next one you can talk at great length about, because you actually won a contest for this record.
I don't think it was this album. It was the album after this.
I thought it was Wasting Light.
No, the one I won a contest for was Sonic Highways. It was the next one. It was the one that Dave Grohl did an HBO show about. But this album came out. This is actually kind of an interesting one. Foo Fighters' "Wasting Light" comes in at number 23. I would argue, and I haven't given this band a lot of attention as a whole, especially not the past 2, maybe 3 albums that they put out. I haven't really given them the time of day. This is the last Foo Fighters record where it really felt like Foo Fighters were like a force. This is the one that had Rope and maybe Times Like These?
I don't think Times Like These came out on that record. I don't know. Like, okay, so for me, I never really cared or listened to this record. I was really into Echo's Silence, Patience, and Grace.
Yeah.
I thought that album was fantastic. It was one of my favorite albums growing up, like in middle school. And then I think just based on, and I mean like newer bands, they'll put out an album every 2 years and like it's like clockwork. Like the album cycles are quick. A big band like them, their album cycles years because they go on multiple world tours. They go on like multiple talk shows and all that other stuff. Like the press is insane and the tours.
Yeah.
So by the time Wasting Light came out, I just moved on.
But don't you
That
think
was
it's
where I
kind of
was at.
funny? And I think I very much like Dave Grohl. On the whole, I would say I like the Foo Fighters. I would not hesitate if I got the chance to go and see them live. I love the idea of Dave Grohl as this like elder statesman of rock music and guitar-based music. I love.
Sometimes I need him to just shut up, though.
Not lately. I feel
he's-
there was a moment, especially
In the past.
there was a moment, especially when we were in college, where it was just like, oh my god, old man, you were in Nirvana. Thanks for that. Foo Fighters records, the early ones, amazing, but oh my god, shut up. And
He just sounded like the old man telling the kids to get off his lawn, and it's like
I would argue that Dave Grohl has definitely redeemed himself from that. But don't you think it's funny how what you were just saying about how album cycles work and everything else? Don't you think it's funny how some of these younger bands that are on that like their noses to the grindstone every year and a half, every 2 years they're putting out an album versus Foo
Right.
Fighters who have the financial stability and the backing, like the corporate backing, for lack of a better term, to put out an album whenever the hell they feel like it. They can take all their time. Don't you think it's funny how so many of those younger bands are actually putting out better records on a more consistent basis than a band like Foo Fighters?
right. And I think that's insane. If you think like I haven't thought about that, but that is quite insane.
An interesting thing.
And
I would argue that it comes down to hunger. Like
Yeah, I would
who
say
wants
that.
it
Yeah.
more and who's willing to push themselves more for that. Not to say that the Foo Fighters don't push themselves and that they don't believe in what they're making, because obviously I think they do, and I think that there's a reason why they are still one of the last great American rock bands. But I think that we could probably get an entire episode out of an analysis like that, of like a head-to-head with like Foo Fighters and some other band. You know, the Foo Fighters put out, 2 albums in this 5 or 6 year span versus some other band that put out, 3 or 4 albums in the same span, and who's got the better quality of product. Like that could be a very interesting kind of thing. But as far as Foo Fighters in this list, I remember the album. I remember that it was one of the, in the past 10, 12, 15 years, it's one of the few albums made by like a 4 or 5 piece rock band that I can remember just being, it wasn't just the guitar nerds and the music kids that were super into it. It was a genuine pop success. Like they were huge, and they are huge. So
Yeah, rightfully so.
Foo Fighters Wasting Light at number 23.
All right, 22 Thursday. I can't talk much about Thursday. I just never really listened to them. I never really cared.
I was never huge into Thursday. I remember a bunch of the kids that I grew up with were very into Thursday. No Devolution, I think is how you pronounce it. I remember it being a big deal when it
Yeah, I
came
think
out.
so.
I remember it being a little bit underwhelming because Thursday had like Understanding in a Car Crash, I think was one of the song names. Thursday was huge for anybody that grew up in that, like, when emo was like a popular term, in the Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, Paramore, like that early 2000s emo that was on the radio. Like Thursday was leading the charge for those bands. So Thursday was huge. Thursday put out a record that year, and Jeff Rickley, their vocalist, has done a bunch of hardcore things, and he's helped out so many of the bands that we like and we talk about. But yeah, Thursday as a whole, I could really.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into them, so I can't really speak to that record. Just like the next record, I can't really speak to either, but I respect them as musicians. I mean, the Roots with Questlove. I mean, Questlove is one of the best drummers and musicians, and I respect it, but I haven't listened to that record. I can't speak much on it.
Yeah, it's the Roots is for true musical scholars, I feel like. Which is exactly how I would describe Questlove. Like, just a musical scholar, just a guy that
it's a musician's musician.
He's a musician's musician, but he's also he's a great mediator between like the general public and musicians. Listening to Questlove talk is just like that dude should have like musical TED Talks every day.
For sure. Yes. Now, A Loss for Words, No Sanctuary. Woo! We're going to go in on this one. This is probably one of the first ones we can go in depth and not spend too much time on it. But great record, front to back, I think.
This was this their Rise Records debut?
It might have been.
Yeah, they were on one of the biggest underground labels, especially at this time. It's so funny to see bands like The Story So Far, which we'll get to, The Wonder Years, which we'll get to, Transit, Fireworks, name a big like pop punk with hardcore influences. Like, name any of those bands that have become huge in the past 15 years. I guarantee you that A Loss for Words took them out on their first tours. Like, it's really, I think The Story So Far is probably the best example of this. Like, The Story So Far got huge for a band like that. A Day to Remember, too. I mean, so many of those bands that have become, like, true larger-than-life, like, big deals owe a lot of their sound and their touring experience and everything else to A Loss for Words. Like, that band is... Yeah. That band is more important than anybody has ever given them credit for, and it's sad that they never reached those kind of heights. But the quality of the work that they have put out, from the first EPs to The Kids Can't Lose, Sanctuary, the farewell record that they did after they had technically broken up, like there's not a better pop.
And I mean,
band.
we're talking about No Sanctuary here. This one is better than The Kids Can't Lose. And we might disagree with that.
That's a hot take.
I mean, I think the hits on The Kids Can't Lose might hit harder, but I think as overall, this one is better from front to back.
I don't think there's a single song on here that's better than Stamp of Approval or Hold Your Breath, but I think there's also more production issues on this album than there was on The Kids Can't Lose. But No Sanctuary is a product of its time. It sounds a little bit overcompressed, a little bit overblown, but just big and loud and hooky. And yeah, a song like Pirouette or what's the other song? The He's Not the One for You.
Oh, Raining Excuses.
I mean,
which fucking Davey Muse
on the music video. Yeah.
Which that seems the most fitting place to see him.
True. One EP that's not on this list, but I would love to mention in the wake of the fact that we just mentioned Davey Muse. The Honest Hearts EP by Vanna also came out this year, which was huge. I think that's my high school yearbook quote. Came from the Honest Hearts EP by Vanna.
Yikes.
Send this vessel out to sea. I'm not the ship I used to be. I was deep, guys.
I mean, mine was a Wonder Years quote. So,
Shocking.
yeah.
I'm shocked to hear you say that, Dan Mayotte. Yeah, number 20, A Loss for Words, No Sanctuary. Great album. Anybody that likes pop punk music, just like big aggressive guitars, huge drums, hooks coming out of your ears. I mean, that
It's aggressive with pop sensibilities.
Yeah,
Because Matt is a really good singer. And he really has a good performance on this record.
yeah, just great all around. I think one of the world's first introductions to Lynn from Paris too. Pretty sure she's featured on this record, and I know she toured with the band on this album cycle as a backup vocalist and guitarist.
I remember like maybe it was 2011, maybe it was 2012. I think it was 2011 though. Glamour Kills tour.
Oh, that EP.
And like
oh man.
well, like no, that EP was good, and we're probably gonna have to talk about that as well. But not that tour, but they had like a holiday Boston show at like House of Blues, and I remember Lynn from Paris performing. That was really cool.
Yeah, No Sanctuary, A Loss for Words. If you haven't heard it, you should. It's 10 years on,
Yeah.
but you're gonna listen to that record and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, every pop punk band that anybody has loved for the past 10 years owes a debt of gratitude to the boys from Boston.
Yes. Next is Rosebuds, Loud Planes Fly Low. I haven't heard this record. I can't speak anything
I
on
don't know it, but I know people that did know it, and I know that it was pretty well loved, so it makes sense that it's on this list. But yeah, that it was never something that was like for me. So we can
Yeah.
move right along to another mammoth of a record.
Which this one, just like No Sanctuary, both are probably going to get their own episodes eventually. So this one is Separation, Balance Composure.
This is the one. I mean, I remember vividly the first time that I ever listened to Separation by Balance and Composure all the way through front to back. It was the first time I had ever heard Balance and Composure. I forget. Somebody posted something on their Instagram. It was like a screen cap of them listening to "I Tore You Apart in My Head," which is one of the big songs off of this record. And I was on a flight down to Washington, D.C. to visit my friend Pat. Pat was going to school at, not Georgetown, American University. I was going to go visit him for the weekend and hang out and like experience the city and experience college life and everything. And it was right around Valentine's Day, and my girlfriend at the time and I were kind of on the rocks. So, of course, I threw myself into music, and I was on the flight and I listened to this front to back, and I had my like Skull Candy overhead headphones that I was listening to on the plane. And I just remember listening to the guitars, and I come to find out that the band had 3 guitarists between, the vocalist played guitars, and then they had 2 individual guitars plus drums and bass. It was huge, and I don't think the production on this album quite holds up 10 years on, but the songwriting and like the feeling of like, oh my God, like this is huge and this is massive, and I haven't really heard a band play music like this. Like hooky, catchy, but huge guitar-based rock with like just that hint of aggression, just enough to get them called like emo. Like this album was, listening to this, it's the only thing that I listened to on that long weekend, and it became still a current obsession of mine. I kind of want to buy one of the Separation blankets that they're making for the 10-year anniversary of this album. But like, I have more Balance and Composure merchandise that I wear than any other band. Like this album started it all, and it's sad that they're not still a band, but this album just is going to live forever for me.
I mean, for me, I got into Balance Composure a couple years later, and what got me was The Things We Think We're Missing. So that's the record that's more, sentimental to me. And I don't know, I think Separation I remember doing a listen through recently, I was like driving, and like me and Justine were listening to like old albums from this time period, and this was one that kind of just fell a little flat to me. But I do say it is an important record in the lexicon of, in terms of like everything else that was going on back then, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. This was
In context, like it's much bigger than it's a lot bigger than and its impact has influenced like a ton of bands.
Yeah, and just I think if those songs were remixed and remastered, really show just the weight of all of the instrumentation, it would hold up even more than it does. But still, like, that was my introduction to that band, and yeah, that's a very important record. Not to mention,
For sure.
some of my favorite album art, like all of the art that came out of that, a lady with the sun for a head and the guy in a suit with the moon and wings. It's still,
That's some of the best album art, I think.
yeah, I mean, this was the height of Tumblr culture too, so I mean, it was made for that, but that holds up for me.
For sure. Next coming up, we got Childish Gambino, Hamp.
This was not was not and is not one of the big Childish Gambino releases for me. But I do remember hearing about this and being like, a guy from Community? Like, he's a rapper? This was
Kind
the
of a
beginning.
Donald Glover, jack of all trades.
This was the beginning of the takeover for Childish Gambino as like a pop music force. This was when it was still very indie and it was still like a cool, like, gatekeeping kind of thing, I guess, to be like, oh, Childish Gambino is an up and comer. And then obviously you get Because the Internet and the album with Redbone on it. Yeah, all the stuff that he did after in the musical. And then Donald Glover went on to Atlanta, and he was in Star Wars, and is probably going to be in more Star Wars. And else, like, 2011 was like the birth of Childish Gambino as like a cultural. And while I don't think it's not, I don't have like a big reason to like go back to this release, but this jumping off point, the thing.
Yeah. 16, Manchester Orchestra, Simple Math.
Whew. Another doozy on our hands.
For you.
Yeah, and it's not even my favorite of the Manchester Orchestra releases. Anybody that likes Manchester Orchestra knows that this is like the most sanitized, I guess, that this band ever got. Like, the production is too slick, doesn't have a lot of dynamics, it doesn't hit as hard as it probably should, but the songwriting's all still there. And I mean, you get these big old sing-along choruses, and you still get some of that introspective, sprawling Manchester Orchestra songwriting. It's Simple Math is great. I think being in kind of the middle of the list is fitting for this album. But yeah, Simple Math still holds up. And apparently they're going to, at some point, probably this year, they're going to release kind of similar to the way that Manchester Orchestra did Hope and Cope. Hope was a very like ethereal acoustic guitars orchestrated kind of version of the album Cope, which was just a straight ahead big old rock record. Apparently they're doing the inverse with Simple Math, where Simple Math is kind of the sanitized, very put together, very polished kind of version of the album, and they're going to put out eventually something called Sinful Math. Sinful Math is going to be kind of similar to that in that it's going to be the much more straight ahead, big old rock, aggressive-y kind of version of that album, and I very much look for that because there are some fantastic songs hiding in this album.
For sure. Coming in at 15, we got Living with Lions. Holy shit.
I remember Living with Lions. I was never a huge fan.
I remember they were like the hardcore, like, they were like, this is a deep cut. They were kind of like Crucial Dudes.
Yeah.
Remember that band?
Yep.
Like pop punk that's clearly on the cusp of hardcore, but not like easycore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what they were always like to me.
Almost melodic hardcore, but they don't really share all that much with like something like Defear or something like that. Yeah, they were, I mean, Living with the Lions was cool. I liked them. But it was never something that wasn't big on my lists, especially at this time.
Same. Now we got Other Lives, Tamer Animals.
I do not remember this album or this band.
I don't remember it either. Moving on. The story so far, Under Soil and Dirt.
Oh, angry white boy energy.
So, like I mentioned earlier, when Justine and I were driving in the summer and like listening to old songs or like old albums from this kind of era, this was one of them. And this aged like sour milk, lyrically, anyways. This, we both were just like, really? We actually listened to this?
Yeah.
We thought this was good?
Trying hard, real hard, every day not to lose my temper.
I mean, give it a shot. Listen to
Try
it
harder.
if you want. But like, it is, if you're looking for, like we mentioned, A Loss for Words earlier, and maybe it's a little bit of bias because Boston, but also I think if you're looking for truly in-depth pop punk, you're gonna find it higher up on the list, and also with A Loss for Words lower down on the list.
Yeah.
Lyrically, musically, and just production and recording wise.
I mean, it's still got some hits, and it was like it did kind of take the world. It took the underground kind of by storm. I mean, this album was very much. I mean,
It's one of the biggest albums from this era. Like when I think of
And it was
albums from this time, I think of one of the top ones I think of is Under Soil and Dirt.
and it came out of nowhere too. Like I don't remember anybody giving a fuck about this band, and then overnight everybody was like, this is the thing. It's a pop punk band, but like it's written by hardcore dudes. Like it's
Right.
it's moshy and bouncy and huge and like big, but it's
And I mean,
it's
like,
all melodic.
in-
There's no screaming. There's no, the aggressive parts
Yeah.
have been toned down. And for what it was at the time, I mean, there's a reason why it was huge, why it worked so well. But yeah, on the whole, I don't think Under Soil and Dirt has held up that well.
I mean, I will say it is one of the most influential records from this scene. I mean, you wouldn't get bands like Real Friends or Knuckle Puck or Neck Deep, which all the bands I've mentioned I don't particularly like, but because I just don't like that style of pop punk. But it's undeniable that all those bands are huge because of the story so far.
Yeah, the story so far, and like I alluded to when we were talking about A Loss for Words. I think A Loss for Words started that kind of subgenre of pop punk. Really, like that version of pop punk was started by A Loss for Words, and A Loss for Words took all of these bands out, and they really kind of pioneered it. The story so far made it popular. The story so far made it an actual like thing, became a movement because of that band and this
For
album.
sure. Yeah. And maybe we'll go more in depth on a separate episode about this. Maybe my opinion will change from like the summer, but we'll see.
Maybe.
Maybe. Coming up next, we have I Am the Avalanche, Avalanche Unite. And for me, this is a record I got into several years later. Shout out Brad Teller.
Shout out Brad Teller.
gave me a thumb drive with a bunch of bands, a bunch of albums to listen to that he thought were cool, and this was on it. Can I speak? And no, apparently not. And it's just a good, solid punk record.
Long Island represent.
In this, right, in the same way of like Gaslight Anthem, in like that kind of way, but it's not cheesy. They're not trying to be the Gaslight Anthem. They're just being themselves.
Yeah, it's a solid all around record. I never got like super into I Am the Avalanche, but I always, again, a ton of respect for that band. There's a good reason why it's nearing the top of the list. Like I get why it became a big thing, especially in kind of the underground scene at the time. It was, I mean, they were the epitome of a Long Island punk band. Where
Right.
they were what I think everybody wanted Taking Back Sunday to continue to be. Like Taking Back Sunday started in a very I Am the Avalanche kind of era, back when Taking Back Sunday was first starting to come up, and then they just went like full on into the stratosphere by this time, and then they were starting to come back down around this time actually. But I Am the Avalanche was just like a hometown hero kind of deal. for that particular scene.
Right. And I mean, like, the melodies, the riffs, like, one of my favorite standout tracks from it, Brooklyn Dodgers. I think, like, the chorus is, like, extremely good. Like, it's like, New York Dodgers, what happened to, like, that's a good, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about it, it stands out in my brain. Up next, Thrice, Major Minor. This is a album and band I never got that into.
At the time, I could not have given a damn. In 2011, Thrice began and ended with the song "The Artist in the Ambulance" off of the album "The Artist in the Ambulance," and everything else that I tried, I didn't like. I am now a pretty big Thrice fan. Major Minor is big. It's not as influential as what came before or what came after. But Major Minor is a solid Thrice record, and if you're into Thrice, this is as good of a jumping off point as any. I mean, fantastic instrumentation. Justin Kensrue is such a great like everyman frontman. Like,
yeah,
vocally, he gets a little. He's always flirted a little bit too much with like the butt rock kind of vocalization. But overall, like they do enough to keep themselves in that like alternative scene as opposed to just being like a rock band. Major Minor is a great record. There's not a lot of standouts that I can think of off of this record because I'm not the biggest Thrice fan. But I really, really appreciate all of their work. And yeah, Major Minor, a solid record front to back. I'm cool with it, and I like where it is on this particular list too.
Yeah. Now we're in the top 10. Blink-182 Neighborhoods.
This shows that this was an absolute punk list because God, what a train wreck of a record. Have you ever listened to this front to back?
No, I've made every point not to. I mean, like, I listened to Dude Ranch, I've listened to Enemy of the State, I've listened to Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, even the self-titled Blink-182, but I've never done anything after that.
This was
and I'm also a Blink-182 hater. I think they're one of the most overrated bands ever, and I'm not that particularly into them. So I am biased here.
This was the reunion record. Band broke up in the early 2000s. They got back together. They did some major tours, and then they finally actually got into the studio and put out a full-length record. That record was Neighborhoods, and Neighborhoods was Tom DeLonge wanting Blink-182 to be Angels and Airwaves, and there's a couple of really great songs on the record, which is inevitable because you have arguably one of the world's best drummers, even if he is rather overrated. You have Mark Hoppus, who is one of the best pop songwriters and collaborators, I think. Like, anytime Mark Hoppus has a writing credit or a vocal feature or something, he makes what he does better, even if what he does is he does a lot of obvious kind of choices.
Right.
And Tom DeLonge has, cool visions. He has a cool idea of like what he wants to actually go and do in the music space, in the business space, in the space with his alien obsession, I guess.
Was this the last record with him?
This was they did an EP with him after this, but this was the last full-length record that Blink did with Tom.
Because I remember it being kind of messy.
Yeah, it's very messy. It's very much, Travis and Mark wanted to write a Blink-182 record, and Tom, like, every single song, you can hear where Tom was like, this has to go here. And it just ends up sounding like his other band, Angels and Airwaves. It's severely flawed. It's pretty much a train wreck of a record, but the parts where like the three pieces kind of come together and really kind of work, they work pretty well for pop songwriting with a three-piece band. I mean, I'd argue that Neighborhoods is better than most of what Green Day put out post 2009, probably before that. I mean, post American Idiot, Green Day is really kind of a shit show. So I'd still give Neighborhood. I'd still listen to Neighborhoods over like Uno Dos Tres or 21st Century Breakdown, either of the albums that they put out under the Trump administration. Like, I'd still take Neighborhoods over those, but that doesn't make Neighborhoods not a fucking train wreck. So
that doesn't say much.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9, Newfound Glory, Radio Surgery.
I've never really cared about Newfound Glory outside of the hits. There was one song off of Radio Surgery that made it onto the 2012 Warped Tour compilation CD that I really liked. Other than that, I don't care about this band. I like them. I would go see them. I wouldn't hesitate, kind of similar to what we were talking about with Foo Fighters. I wouldn't hesitate to go see Newfound Glory. I got a lot of respect for them, but they've just never done anything that's made them be like, I have to listen to Newfound Glory. And Radio Surgery is not any different.
I have a lot of respect for Newfound Glory in just their roots and just their punk sensibilities. Like, I mean, they're all hardcore kids who play in a pop punk band. And I think that's pretty cool, but I never got into this record. Respect the band as a whole. I respect their place in the scene. But yeah, I have like the same sort of sentiments with them. Yeah. Fireworks Gospel. Number 8, Fireworks Gospel.
I never really cared about Fireworks. I know I should have because I liked so many of their contemporaries. They had the one song about Legion halls and stuff.
The only the scene's gonna hit me with a lot of flack here, but like I just never cared about them either. And like I know a lot of people, a lot of friends who cared about them and liked them and enjoyed them. My big, and it wasn't even on this album cycle. It was like on the next one when the Greatest Generation tour, and it was the Wonder Years. It was Citizen. Defeater was supposed to be on it, but Fireworks decided, Derek broke his hip, so he had to have surgery for it.
Wasn't this one Derek from Defeater ended up breaking his hip?
Yeah. So it was like Fireworks, Citizen, Modern Baseball. Just, I would say one of my favorite tours I've ever seen, with Fireworks being the exception. Like I was like, I was so bummed when that ended up being announced.
Yeah, it's funny that this is number 8 on the list and that the story so far isn't in this place. I feel like those should have been switched because as far as like impact in the scene as a whole, Fireworks didn't do much.
I mean, I wouldn't say that. They did have their place, and this was their big album. Just like how, for example, Sea Haven's album was like Winter Forever. I would put them in the same sort of like category together.
That makes my point even more though, because Sea Haven, of all the like Run for Cover, No Sleep, Top Shelf bands that were getting a lot of hype and were kind of big within the scene and everything, I never got Sea Haven. I saw them live a couple of times and I really liked their live show, but I never got it listening to the records. It never clicked.
I feel like with a lot of people, it's either you're into Fireworks and not into Sea Haven, or like you're into Sea Haven and you're not into Fireworks. It's one or the other.
I was into neither.
Right. Just like this next band, number 7, kind of a segue.
Yeah.
La Dispute Wildlife. Except I liked one song off this record.
I like this record more than most other La Dispute records. And I've given La Dispute so many different chances. I get a lot of what they're going for. It's never really been my cup of tea. I got made fun of a lot because I actually really liked I Think I Saw You in My Sleep, Darling. I forget what the name of that song is, but I really loved that song for a long while because I was also starting to get into a lot of like spoken word kind of stuff, like Listener and things like that. Wildlife, though,
God.
This album, I mean, do I think it deserves to be number 7 on the list? Probably not with some of the other things that are here, but I get it, especially at the time. Like this was a big album from a band that was pretty friggin' big.
7 for me doesn't offend me. It's not egregious because that album was pretty huge then.
Yeah.
The one track I really liked from it was St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church Blues.
Exactly.
That was like the song that, I don't know, that really stuck out to me. Like, what would you put above La Dispute?
I I would have put the Thrice record ahead of La Dispute with everything else. I probably would have put the A Loss for Words album above that. Would have put the Pianos Become the Teeth record above that. Would have put the Thrice record above it, and would have put Manchester Orchestra above it, because I think all four of those albums all hold up a lot better and could easily contend with everything that comes after La Dispute on this list as we head towards number one. But
Right.
everything's a product of its time, and starting 2012, when this list came out, right at the beginning of 2012, kind of doing a retrospective on the year. Yeah, I mean, Wildlife was huge for that kind of sect of the scene, so it totally makes sense. I'm not mad at it, but with hindsight being 2020, yeah, there's a few albums. Oh, Balance and Composure would have been, probably number 2 on this list. So,
I mean, you're also speaking with
a ton of bias. A ton of bias.
Yeah, you're biased
No.
in like your list. Like this would be like your list
Yeah.
at that point. But
I'm
like
not,
this
I'm
is
not saying
this
anybody,
is just someone else's list.
I'm not saying anybody's wrong here. I'm just saying if I were in charge of the list, I would have looked at this, especially now in 2021. I'm looking at this list and I'm like, there's 5-6 records that are on this list that could easily have beaten out Wildlife.
This list is just making me want to listen to more music. That's what it is. That's what it's making me do.
sure.
Just like this next record, The Dangerous Summer, aka Aaron Gillespie's side project.
No. This isn't The Almost. The Almost was Aaron Gillespie's side project. Dangerous Summer was...
the Dangerous Summer. Isn't that his side project?
No, his side project was The Almost. The Dangerous Summer was bigger actually before 2011. This was, I think, the last album that the original lineup came out, and then some of the members ended up being problematic or something. Dangerous Summer had like a lot of weirdness kind of go on, but I remember Warpaint coming out.
Oh, you know what it is? I was looking at the Wikipedia page for them, and a current member is Aaron Gillespie.
Really? Oh, he probably plays.
Yeah.
He probably plays drums, because I know they kind of have made a little bit of a comeback with a couple of the old members or something. I remember very little from this album and this band. It was never big. They were hyped up really big, especially on the Absolute Punk forums. I remember everybody talking about the Dangerous Summer and everybody loving them. It's never really tickled my ear. But yeah, I remember them being kind of huge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about the record.
So
Now the next record I do know a lot about.
let's
Number 5, Frank Turner. Frank Turner, England, Keep My Bones.
This is your guy, Dan.
And this is my man right here.
You introduced me.
I love Frank Turner. This was not my introduction to Frank Turner. My introduction to Frank Turner was Love in Ivory, or Erie. I want to say that's how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
And oh boy, I don't think this is the best Frank Turner record, but it's my favorite Frank Turner record. It just as of like sentimental wise goes. And the hits really hit. You got Peggy Can't Sing the Blues. You got a killer opener with, now I have to scroll down because I forgot the names of the songs. Killer opener with Eulogy. You got I Still Believe. Willicks Boy, which is a great kind of like a bar sing-along song. If you haven't had the chance to listen to Frank Turner, I would maybe start with this album and then just go down the repertoire and like go down the rabbit hole.
And there's a bunch of like old English like folk songs on here. English Curse.
Yeah.
I remember, so it was really cool when you introduced me to Frank Turner and I started going through his discography, this song in particular, because this is a song that we used to sing at campfires at Boy Scout camp.
I remember you telling me that, and like I didn't know
My
that
mind
at the
was
time. I just
blown.
remember like hearing it.
Oh man. Years back when these old oaks were young, not long after the Northmen had come, long an evil deed was done, the dark of the New Forest. Oh my god. It's it's old English, when you think of like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, things like that. Like this is that kind of like melody and song that you would think of. And yeah, it's hearing the punk dude sing those kind of songs was like, oh man, once again, weirdly enough, my Eagle Scout life and my and my punk boy life crossroads.
He's a fun performer to see. Also in 2020, like you got to respect the man. Like he raised so much money for independent venues. He did like a lot of live streams to raise money for England and for English venues as well as American ones. Like he's just a good dude and really has good morals. Like I can't say any good things about him.
And just such a great, like, he's such a lifer, man. Like he's such just like, he's forever going to be like what Dave Grohl is to like 80s and 90s like rock and roll, as like this elder statesman that keeps the idea of guitar music alive, right? I think that's what Frank Turner is for, like, is and is going to be for punk music. Like just this one singular guy that can kind of serve as a voice of like, this is the way, children. Like, come experience subculture. I like Frank Turner's the man. Great dude.
Yeah. Coming in at 4, we got the Horrible Crows, which I didn't know until I searched them up, and it is Brian Fallon's side project from the Gaslight Anthem. So I have to listen to that now because I love that band, and I love everything that Brian Fallon does. And I'm pissed I'm now finding out about it. So I can't really speak much to it, but I do want to listen to it now.
Yeah, I remember when this came out, and I remember everybody being kind of freaking out about it being kind of the side project for him. I wasn't super into it at the time. I've really come to love Gaslight Anthem, Horrible Crows, as it's gone on. And you were there when I first kind of got into Gaslight Anthem and stuff like that. Brian Fallon's the man. He is the heir apparent to Bruce Springsteen, especially as it comes to like songwriting and that everyman kind of storytelling effort in alternative and less than alternative music. LC's a great album. Anybody who's just a fan of just down home rock and roll bands, Gaslight Anthem, Horrible Crows, and Brian Fallon, his solo stuff, like this is the one. I'm not mad at this being number 4. Makes sense.
And it makes sense even though I haven't listened to it, but everything Brian Fallon just touches, it just seems to go very well. Number 3, and this is probably the first time on this list that we're going to really disagree.
I'm going to let you go first.
Listen and Forgive. Transit, Listen and Forgive. Where do I begin?
You've let me wax poetic about a couple of albums here, so go off, King.
This, and I mean, I will say, full disclosure, 100% biased here. Because I've seen this band play in church basements and play to not a lot of people. So full disclosure, biased.
This is your band.
Yes. They're from my area in Massachusetts, and you kick it off with, you can't miss it. It's everywhere. What an opening track. It has all the hooks you need in this album. All Your Heart featuring Patrick Stump, when Patrick Stump was doing that really weird thing, just appearing in a lot of just bands, like smaller bands, like music, and he was just like doing guest appearances here and there. So that was kind of cool. You have Long Lost Friends. I mean,
only song that's like matters on this album.
No.
Yes.
We're gonna do a full episode on this album, and I'm gonna convince you and change your mind.
Oh God, just so much pitch correction. Oh God, I get why it's here on this list. I mean, Absolute Punk was in love with this band for a hot minute there. I get it, and I kind of appreciate it, but man, I never saw what was special in this band. Like, cool, you've got a guitarist that can write like American football kind of parts over the most sophomoric like pop punk of all time, but you love them, and I love that you love them, but man, I just could not give less of a damn about this band.
And I mean, in retrospect, as now we're in the year 2021, like this album being as big as it is, it's really disappointing how Young New England just flopped. Like their next record.
Joyride wasn't that much greater. They just
I mean, there was a couple bangers on it.
there's a couple of bangers for sure, and like they definitely got the help that they needed for some of that. But man, I never ever got this band.
Well, let me ask you this: like, if there was no pitch correction and Joe could actually sing those parts, would you be more into them?
Maybe, but it needs a lot more than that.
Like, what is the issue? Okay.
The singer can't sing. The production is just not. It's not there. It's like it's so weird how like glossy it feels, while at the same time being like sounding like somebody's first recording that got like sent through like a decent mastering engine. And the songs aren't there for me. Like there's nothing on this album that has ever made me sit back besides Long Lost Friends. There's nothing there that makes me sit back and be like, "Oh man, this band can write." Like they did something interesting here. Like everything about Transit just has me sitting back and being like, "Okay, I get it. I get why it's popular." But it's popular because it's just playing to for my money, it's playing to the lowest common denominator all time. And if you love it, you love it. And, God bless you. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. But, oh, man, this album in particular. No, not this album in particular. Young New England is the one that I find egregious. This one has, shows potential. But besides potential, there's not much there for me.
And, I mean, that's fair. This is probably my second favorite Transit release. The first being Stay Home, which that was like an EP that they put out a couple years before this. But I don't know. This is a record that will always be in high regard to me. And I think it's just like how you were talking about separation, nostalgia. That's kind of where my head is at. And my mind will never change on like I could put this record on now and still jam out and listen to it and like sing along to it,
as I'm sure you could say about the record that comes in at number 2 on the list.
And this, if I was making this list in 2011, this would be number 1, and then everything else would be very far down. This was like the only album that I cared about in that year.
I've come around greatly on this album since you and I first started talking.
I mean, it's an interesting album, right? There's a lot of callbacks to The Upsides, which was the previous album that they came out with the year before, as well as I really liked the play on Allen Ginsberg's poem America. And just going off on that was really cool to me. And that was one of the things, like, for me too, it was also, in this time period in high school, I was learning about beat poetry with, like, Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac and all those really cool writers I still love and appreciate today. And this kind of just resonates with that memory. Not all of it connects back to Allen Ginsberg and connects back to The Upsides, but you start off with a killer beginning, came out swinging, and they literally come out swinging. Man, I love some of like the one-liners in this album, like in the last song on it, And Now I'm Nothing, there's like the line that's like, every year someone steals baby Jesus, nobody stops them. It's a nice tradition. I think that's hilarious and a really just like tongue-in-cheek.
For those of you not following along at home, the album is Suburbia, I've Given You All, and Now I'm Nothing by The Wonder Years, because I don't think we said it at the top of this. And yeah.
I thought I did.
as far as pop punk records go from this era, it doesn't all land for me, but a lot of it does. And yeah, this album hits. Dan
This is
talked
one of the gold standards.
Dan talked
me.
about track number 1, Came Out Swinging. My favorite from this one is probably track number 2, Woke Up Older. Just you don't get a better pop punk chorus than that. Hey Jess, I woke up older, carrying 2 years in, the bags under my eyes. Oh God. There's references to everything all over it, from like their Pennsylvania records, references to hardcore bands, Allen Ginsberg callbacks. Just oh man, Coffee Eyes is a huge one.
I also love the interludes. Like in between every couple tracks, they would do kind of a very short segment or a very short song, and kind of breaking up the album. And I enjoy that because it kind of tells a story of their hometown and this story of like America as a whole, and like them touring constantly, them being a band. And I think it just really puts you in their life.
It also has the first Wonder Year song that I ever heard, Don't Let Me Cave In.
And a lot of these songs, they still play live to this day.
Definitely.
And I think that, I mean, this is one of the albums with all the hits. They don't play much from the upsides anymore. They only play Washington Square Park at this point. And yeah, I think for a lot of Wonder Years fans, this is probably their favorite.
For sure. It's it's got bangers. And it was huge for this website and this community. So yeah. Number 2, Wonder Years, Suburbia, I've Given You All, and Now I'm Nothing. Fitting placement.
Number one. It's number 1.
But it's not number 1 on this list. Because number 1 on this list is what I think a lot of people would probably put as their number 1 album from 2011. And that is Bon Iver by Bon Iver. And yeah, it's hard to argue. That is, I mean, as far as
16-year-old me hates that.
I'm sure 16-year-old you probably does hate that, and 16-year-old me probably hates it too. Until you listen to this album for the first time when you're sitting alone in a dark room, and oh my God, I mean, right from the beginning, Earth, the intro track with that little guitar line, and there's so many like people talk about like ambient music, right? But this is not ambient music like the genre of music. This is ambient as in like there are samples of the places that these songs are from. Like almost every song is named after a town, like Perth or Minnesota, Michigan, Calgary, Lisbon, Hinnom, Texas. There's always these like ambient parts. You can hear, the sound. You can hear the sounds of like the bay. You can hear the boats kind of creaking and the bells off in the distance and things like that. Like it's a fantastic record. It really is. It's so well put together and so well done, and it's mixed and mastered and engineered in such like a pop music format. The way that the vocals kind of sit with everything and the polish over everything, but the actual music that they're working with in that space is far more ambient and eclectic than most pop music in general, coming from the guy that won a Grammy for an album and songs that he wrote alone with like a slightly out of tune acoustic guitar in a hunting cabin. This was a step up in so many ways, and yeah, it's not hard to understand why Bon Iver is one on this list. I love it. I still listen to a lot of these songs. Holocene, oh my God, it's.
I mean, it makes sense for what.
I hate to be that guy, but man, Bon Iver is so good, still so good.
That's fair, and I think as far as like in pop culture and in mainstream culture goes, like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think, like, I'm not mad now at it. If it was 10 years ago, I'd probably be like, who the heck is Bon Iver? Like, why the heck does he get attention?
Who's this Bonnie Bear guy?
Bon Iver. That's how I probably would have pronounced it.
But yeah, this album worthy at number one in hindsight and at the time, I think. But kind of funny when people talk about absolutepunk.net. This is not the album that you would think would be the top of their end of year list.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to Jason Tate, owner and proprietor of absolutepunk.net and now chorus.fm. He went through the internet time machine and brought us a bunch of these old reviews from Absolute Punk and these old best of lists and everything else. I think this ended up being pretty good, especially considering the fact that we had no plan really going into this episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But we've talked so much over the past 2 weeks about, albums that we grew up with and that we love are all, celebrating anniversaries and stuff. And this was a pretty good list of some of those albums and some of those releases. So many of these artists are still, doing things that we both love. So works out pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. Let us know what your favorite album from this list is. And let's move into some recommendations.
Let's do...
I got a juicy one.
I've got a pretty good one too. I'll let you go first.
It might... I bet it's the same one as me. Silk Sonic! Leave the Door Open, the new Anderson .Paak, Bruno Mars collab album. Boy,
howdy.
This is a song.
Hot dog. I agree.
Was that your recommendation?
It was not my recommendation, actually.
But I would give this a listen to. I'm very stoked on this new project, and I can't wait to hear more from it.
Yeah, I mean, Bruno Mars is, I think, the current reigning king of pop, really. And yeah, that song slaps. It's good. I'm excited to hear more.
It makes so much sense. Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars collabing together.
Yeah,
I was like, why haven't they done this before? I was like, duh. Like, of course this would happen. So, Leave the Door Open, Silk Sonic. What's yours?
Mine, not that. It is it is the new Tiger's Jaw album, actually.
Ooh.
The new Tiger's Jaw album called I Won't Care How You Remember Me. It's not a huge departure from what Tiger's Jaw has done before, but I think Tiger's Jaw is one of the most consistently great bands in modern rock music. They have their little niche, they do their thing. Weirdly enough, it came out on Hopeless Records. I didn't know that Tiger's Jaw and Hopeless were a thing, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's if you know Tiger's Jaw or you like Tiger's Jaw, like they just continue to refine their sound, and they never really branch that far out. They're not doing anything that totally pushes the needle. There's nothing that makes you think like, wow, this is a Tiger's Jaw song. Like it sounds like Tiger's Jaw, but they just keep getting better at what they do, which is especially impressive considering the number of lineup changes they've had and everything else. Like that band is really good. Like there's no getting around it. They are really, really good, and they knocked it out of the park again. They've got another 11-song set that sounds like Tiger's Jaw, but they continue to sound a little bit better from the production side and the songwriting side and everything else. And I'm impressed. I'm happy that they continue to make music, and that every couple of years I get to listen to a new Tiger's Jaw album and be like, oh yeah, this band is great.
Yeah, they're always great.
So there's our thoughts on the Absolute Punk top 28 albums of 2011, and a couple of recommendations to get you through the week. You have anything else that you want to impart on our fair listenership?
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. It's Pack Your Run Pod on both of those socials. Like, listen, share the podcast with your friends and family.
Leave reviews on whatever your podcast client is. It helps the show, helps us grow. Tell us what you want to hear, what you like, what you don't like. Tell Dan he looks funny, because I tell Dan he looks funny.
No, I need a haircut, bro.
Get your hair cut, you hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll be back next Thursday. I have nothing else to say, so take it easy.
Goodbye forever. Till next week. And then forever until the week after that. Goodbye.